When Chloe leaned in to kiss me, her lips soft, almost tender, as if nothing had happened. I held her gaze a second longer than usual, feeling the weight of the words I was about to whisper. My name is Caleb, and for the past 5 years, I trusted my wife, Avery, completely. She was my partner, the person I had shared every dream, every plan, every secret with, until the cracks began to show. It started small. Her phone always face down, conversations that ended the instant I walked into the room, faint traces of messages she swore were nothing. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I'd been distant. Maybe I'd missed something. But one night I couldn't ignore it anymore. I read the texts between her and the man named Trevor. The kind of words that twist your stomach and stop your heart. I read them once, twice, 3 times, praying for context that never came. There was none. It was exactly what it looked like. Betrayal. I didn't confront her that night. I waited, I watched, I planned, because I've always believed the clearest truth comes when people are allowed to reveal themselves through their own actions. Avery kept playing the perfect wife. Smiles, hugs, light laughter at dinner. But I knew better. I had followed every thread, uncovered every layer, and seen the full scope of what she'd done. And then I did what needed to be done. I made sure Trevor paid for every lie he'd fed her, every boundary he'd helped her cross. I won't detail how, only that it was thorough, final, and left no room for doubt. The next evening, she acted as though nothing had changed. Dinner was casual, her teasing laugh floated through the kitchen. And when she leaned in to kiss me, expecting warmth, forgiveness, maybe even ignorance, I gently held her shoulders, looked straight into her eyes, and whispered the words that ended everything. I know about your lover, and I already made him pay. Her eyes widened in an instant. Shock, fear, denial, all of it flashed across her face in the space of a heartbeat. I stayed perfectly calm, letting the silence stretch, letting her feel the full weight of what I'd said. In that moment, she realized she had underestimated me. The woman who had smiled in our bed, whispered my name in the dark, now faced the man who had seen every secret she tried to bury, and who had acted long before she ever suspected. Her lips trembled. Her breath caught. For the first time in years, she looked small, and I felt the strange, cold mixture of sorrow and vindication that only true betrayal and true justice can create. She froze, hands still half raised, as if she'd forgotten how to move. I didn't rush her. I didn't shout. I simply held her gaze and let the truth settle between us, like a stone dropped into still water. My mind drifted back over the past few months. Every late work meeting, every sudden girls' night that never quite added up. The tension in her voice whenever I asked a simple question. I had trusted her because that's what love teaches you to do. But trust is fragile. Once it cracks, the fracture spreads through everything you thought was solid. I remembered one night in particular. She had kissed me goodnight, whispered promises of forever, and fallen asleep in my arms while my chest rang with a silent alarm I could no longer ignore. My quiet investigation had peeled back every layer. Trevor wasn't a passing mistake. He was deliberate, calculated, and Avery had welcomed him. Now, standing in the living room of our house on Sycamore Court in Madison, Wisconsin, watching her search for words that would never come, I felt the power shift completely. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm, composed, in control. Do you understand what I'm saying? I asked softly, voice steady. She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. a silent confession that the game was over. I didn't need excuses. I didn't need explanations. The truth had already spoken louder than she ever could. Trevor had paid the price for his part. And now Avery was left to face the consequences alone. The room filled with a heavy, suffocating silence neither of us could escape. Yet my satisfaction didn't come from revenge. It came from clarity, from knowing that sometimes the strongest response isn't a fight. It's patience, observation, and letting people reveal exactly who they are. That night, Avery never looked at me the same way again. And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Absolute control over my own life, unshaken by the lies that had once tried to cage me. The days that followed were quiet and tense. She moved through the house like a ghost, every step careful, every glance wary. The bold, confident woman I married had crumbled under the weight of truth. One evening she tried to speak, voice trembling. "Caleb, I can explain." I shook my head once, and her words died in the air. There was nothing to explain. The messages, the lies, the betrayal, they had already said everything. She stood there, lips quivering, hands twisting together, finally understanding that actions have consequences, and that deception, no matter how carefully hidden, always finds the light. I didn't gloat. I didn't demand apologies. I simply let her see the calm, unshakable resolve of a man who had been wronged, but refused to be broken. When she leaned in again that night, testing the waters, I held her gently, my voice low and certain. "I know everything," I whispered, "and it's already been settled." Tears filled her eyes. Fear, regret, the full weight of realization crashing down at once. In the end, our marriage didn't end in screaming or slammed doors. It ended in the quiet, devastating moment when she finally understood that the man she betrayed had never been the weak one, and I walked away whole.